Okay, so one of the things I've noticed is a lot of people kind of have a problem understanding website analytics. So we're going to kind of take a look at website analytics and what they mean and what they can do for you. So what are website analytics? Basically, when you put data on the internet, whether it's a picture, a movie, a file, a document, we can track how that data is used and consumed by people. Now, technically, web analytics is the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of internet data for the purposes of understanding and optimizing web usage. And what that means, that helps us tell what's popular and what's not, so we can focus on more popular content. Helps e-commerce sites see what's popular so they can go ahead and order more of the popular items and sell more of the popular items. It can also tell you where customers drop off or if they abandon the website as they get more and more enmeshed in the system. It can also tell if someone's dropping off on their shopping cart, not completing a transaction. You can go back and try to figure out why people are doing this. You can also show how people share data off our website. The sharing has become part of the culture. It's very important for companies to understand that tying into Facebook and tying into Twitter and tying into Google Plus or Baidu or any of these other systems that are out there like RenRen can really kind of help make your audiences share that stuff so more people will come to your website and maybe actually buy something. So terminology. The terminology is often confusing. So what I did is I went ahead and pulled this down from an official site so we can find out what all this means. A hit. Right? It's a request for a file. There may be multiple hits across a website. Your page may have hundreds of objects, so like pictures and video and other linkages that go through it. Each one of those is considered a hit. Right? A page view is a request for the complete file. That's the whole thing. So a page view, especially for me, is much more important because I want them to see the whole page. And a page can have tens or hundreds of hits. A visit or session is defined by one person coming in and then going through and taking a look at everything they've got. Some tools have a 30-minute timeout, but that's not necessarily the case anymore, especially as visits get longer and longer. The more we watch video after video after video, or we look at hundreds of pictures as we comb through someone's site, right? So a visit can consist of just one page view, or in my case, usually they average about 33, 34 page views, or hundreds of page views. First time absolute unique visitor. This is someone who uniquely identified, has never come to your website before, and decides that they're going to hang out and kind of see what you've got. So it's not necessarily viable to say that it's the first visit, first label, but it's the first time that browser IP and operating system has hit my website. A visitor, a unique visitor, or user, a uniquely identified client, right? And this is the person that as we go through over time, if a person keeps on coming back, this is a repeat customer. This is someone who keeps on coming back. Or this could be a person that just hits once, looks at a couple of pages, gets bored, and then moves on to someplace else. So now a visitor is not the same thing as the person sitting behind the computer. A visit is that computer browser IP address or cookie that keeps on showing up or shows up for the first time. So kind of important to understand visitors are what they are in terms of either the repeat, the returning, they're uniquely the first time. There are lots of different ways of looking at users. Now, really for me, a user is a person who comes in with that IP, browser, and operating system combination. And that's how I will track a visitor or a unique user. A repeat visitor is someone who keeps on coming back, and these are your most important people on the internet. All right, your repeat visitor is someone who's already found something really cool on your website, and they keep on coming back. And that chance, the more times they come back, the better opportunity you have to sell them stuff. A new visitor is your other really important person, but they're usually just coming in and taking a look. And if they are usually going to go ahead and especially if they're shopping, if you're an e-commerce site, they will come and they see what you got, but then they'll go back and then they'll go and do some more comparison shopping. If they come back as a repeat visitor, then you stand a much better chance of actually selling something. An impression is an instance of advertisement. So we all sell ads on our websites. Even Amazon and eBay sell advertising on their websites. Sometimes it's for competitive places and places that otherwise what happens. So impressions are really kind of important for advertisers because that's how they determine how valuable or viable that their advertising campaign is. A single page visit, in which is only a single page is viewed. They come in, they see the page, they go, ugh, and they walk away. And the bounce rates is the percentage of visits that are just single page. People that come in and take a look at it and go away. Now, the other thing that you kind of may want to take a look at too is single page visits and your bounce rate may be caused by internet spiders like Google or Bing or Baidu or any of the other spidering systems that are out there. They just kind of go in, tap, see what they've got, and then walk away, or they'll come back and take a look at stuff later. The page time view, the more time they spend on the page, this is a good thing, especially if you're running video or advertising or other stuff. So page time viewed, how long did they stay on that page? Did they read the whole thing? Or did they just go, oh, too long, didn't read, and then walk away after like maybe a few seconds? Maybe you didn't grab their attention fast enough. The convention, as I understand it with page time views, is that you only have about 5 seconds to really capture that person's attention and their interest in this. So if they stay for longer than 5 seconds, odds are highly likely they will stay. The problem is how long does that page take to load as well in terms of page time viewed. If your page takes 7 to 10 seconds to load and the person decides that they don't want to wait for that whole load, they'll leave before the page even loads. So it's not really a good thing. All right, session duration, or how long did they stay on your website? The average amount of time they stayed on the site each time they visit. All right, now it's complicated, but the idea being is that the longer they spend on your site, the more chance that they'll actually have buying thing. And then the average page view duration, the amount of time visitors spend on average on a page of the site. If you're a newspaper, you want to have a really long page view duration because you want them to read what you're doing. And then the page view duration, if you're rotating ads, your page time viewed, you can actually cycle ads through that page view duration. So if I stay on that page view duration for 2 or 3 minutes, I may actually see 2 or 3 different advertising as they cycle through on that load. Active time, engagement time, the amount of time visitors actually spend interacting with content on the web page based on mouse moves, clicks, whatever they're doing. So this is kind of important. How well do you engage your customer? If you're running a video game company or an online game time, that engagement time is huge. The amount of time they spend actually playing in game is really important for engagement time. Engagement time in social media is also really important. How long does someone stay into their Facebook or their G+, their Twitter account or their RenRen account or their Meebo account or whatever account that they have? Average page depth, how many different pages do they actually go and take a look at? And then frequency, session per unique, how often visitors come to a website in a given period. You could do this monthly, daily, weekly, however. And then the click path, how do they go through and actually visit that? The visitors flow is another way of looking at click path. Click, single instance of a person following a hyperlink. Most people will read 1 page, maybe go on to 2. You know you've really hit something good when they're going in like 20 or 30 or 40 times. A site overlay, this is kind of a near real time kind of thing, so you can actually see which are the hot spots superimposed on your website. So here, let me kind of show you what a visual overlay looks like here. So this is considered an overlay, so this would be my in-page analytics, and you can see where people go and how they do it by actually taking a look at, since I sell pictures on this website, you can kind of see where Seattle street art got 2.8 clicks, 11 clicks, and was kind of going through all this. Let's see if we can bring this up a little bit so we can make this a little bit bigger and kind of go through it. You can see that when I did some urban exploration, we actually had 7 clicks that went through, and you can kind of see when you're doing in-page analytics how things actually looked and where people went and how the content actually worked. So as we kind of go through what's going on your in-page analytics, you can go through and see which pictures are popular, which pictures are not, how it worked, how it didn't work, and it will kind of go through and show you what's going on with that in-page analytics. And it's really kind of interesting. In-page analytics only works for things that are actually doing. So we go page views and then unique page views and so on and so forth with that. So in-page analytics are actually really kind of important now, the site overlay. And then this is what analytics will look like. So these are all sites that I work with that sell things. right? So I sell pictures, and I sell advertising, I sell more advertising, and I sell more pictures and more pictures, and lots and lots and lots of pictures. So this is basically just like maybe a couple of weeks kind of data that goes along with it. So you can kind of see about what we have. So when we take a look at our audience view, what we want to do is we want to see how many visits we get as we kind of go through this. So I pulled up a full year, or January 1st through April 30th, basically the last quarter. And basically, how many visits per day? Did I ever cross over 1,000 visitors per day as far as what we had going on here? And so we pulled it up and we broke it out by week. I could break it out by month, day, hourly, so I can kind of see what we've got. So during that time period, we had basically 4,500 people visited the sites. There were 6,588 visits. There were 222,000 page views. The average visit duration was 6 minutes. 66% were brand new, unique visitors. These are people that were new to the site during that time period. So this is where this gets to be important. If 32% of my visitors are returning, these are people that keep on coming back because they're interested in the pictures I'm selling, these are people I'm more likely to go ahead and sell stuff to than the new visitor who just comes in and wants to poke around and take a look at stuff. My bounce rate, my exit rate is 17%. And on average, people look at about 34 pages per visit. So this tells me an awful lot about how and why I'm looking at all my customers and all the other things that kind of go on. The other thing that's really kind of interesting is demographics. Who is coming to my site and what language do they speak? So if it's English US, all right, the predominant group that visits this is English US speakers. They speak United States English. Then I have Denmark, England, Great Britain, just regular English, French, Russian, Denmark, Norway, Spanish, and I don't know who CS is. So, but these are the languages I go. If you find that you have a language that keeps on growing in some market segment you want to pursue, you may think about translating your website over to another language. So if most of my customers were coming from Denmark, then I would go ahead and make a translation of my website over to Danish, so it would make them a lot more ability, that would give them a bigger ability to muck about with my website and interact with my website bigger. All right. Now visits by duration, and this one's kind of interesting. So we have visits and then average visit duration. So we have 6,588 visits with 33.84 pages per visit. Average visit duration is almost 7 minutes. 66% were new. A bounce rate of 17%. So the average, pretty much so on average, pretty much so on everything else that goes along with it. But you can kind of see where more visits, duration, so the light blue is the actual duration. How long did they actually spend on site? So this was not a lot of visits, but really long durations, right? And then I can break it out by country. So if my Danish people had 21 and they were only 4 minutes on site, and they were mostly new visitors, and then their bounce rate was pretty low, that's actually pretty good, right? Because this is a photography site, the pages per visit are really important to me. I want them to spend more time on the site, right? If they're in there for just a couple of seconds, it doesn't do them any good because my website takes much longer than that to load. So that's why this is kind of important. The more times they take a look at stuff, the more often I'm going to do this. If we have visits by web pages, right, how often did they come through and then interchain? The previous one and this one, relatively similar, but when we go through, we can actually see how it broke stuff out, so we can see things in a little bit different way. Visitor geography, where did they actually come from? So the darker the color, the more people I have. So obviously United States, but China and Australia and Russia and all sorts of other places are pretty much so across the board. I don't normally do business in Asia, but I do business in Europe. So Europe is actually really good for me, but the majority of my customers are American. So that's going to show up in this color map. But when you find out where your customers are coming from, if for some reason Denmark was actually way high up there in the dark blue range, then I would go ahead and make a site translation for Denmark or Russia or any of those other places, so I can actually engage with those audiences better, right? New versus returning. I want people to come back. So if I have 4,400 people coming in and 2,100 return, for me that's actually pretty good. The returning visitor though looked at fewer pages than the new visitor, which tells me they kind of bookmarked it. My returning visitor spent a lot more time on my website, but with a higher exit rate. So they kind of came in and they looked around, but they kind of knew what they were looking for. And then we turn around, my new visitor though spent half that amount of time on the website, but then often just then with a much smaller bounce rate. So this would kind of tell me I really want to cater to those returning visitors, get them to spend more time, but I don't want them to leave as fast. So I really want to make sure that when I'm catering to people, especially when I'm trying to sell pictures or I'm trying to sell advertising, that advertisers know about this and that their web pages may be seen more. The problem with engagement is when they come in for less than a minute. And this is a big one, right? When I see 0 to 10 seconds, I'm really looking more, to me, I'm looking at a lot of just bots. I'm looking at computer programs. I'm not really looking at human beings. I may be looking at human beings when you get into 5 seconds or more, because usually they'll want the web page to load. The really cool people, though, are the ones that are spending greater than 3 minutes and a ton of time, greater than 10 minutes. So you'll notice that the page views go screaming up the longer they spend on website. So I really want to cater to these people here because they look at a lot of stuff. They're the people that predominantly look at what I've got, so maybe I'll have a chance to sell them more stuff, right? I want them to engage with my website more. I want to be a little bit more sticky. These people, the ones that are in here for 0 or 10%, I'm not really going to sweat. They're probably automated computer routines that just take a look at stuff. The other thing I'm going to worry about too is whether they're coming in from a desktop or if they're coming in off a mobile device, whether it's a phone or whether it's an iPad or whether it's a Galaxy Tab or something else. So on my mobile side, what was interesting is that predominantly people that use my website are coming in from desktops. They look at a lot of pages and they spend a good amount of time on my website. My mobile users, though, are just a small fraction of who I use. They don't look as many pages, but they'd spend just a little bit more time. New visits are pretty much so the same, but my mobile people leave a lot quicker than my regular desktop users. So what we want to do then is maybe if we want to up our mobile, then we should maybe make a special site for mobile. Maybe we should go back through and revise how we do imagery that I'm trying to sell so that people who are on a cell phone and just want quick access to a picture that they can use, then I need to start catering to my mobile people more. But I would want to see their visits come up more until before I do that. Now the interesting part though is that this website does have a specific mobile style sheet for people who are on iPads, iPhones, Galaxy phones, Android phones, or whatever. So I would like more people to come through, but my website, because I sell pictures, is pretty expensive in terms of bandwidth, so that may also limit it. Now the other thing that makes this interesting too is what kind of device that was used for mobile, because we can cater. Right? If I know that Apple is my predominantly used mobile device, then I can actually cater to the capabilities of the Apple phone. Now the good part is I only really have 3 devices to worry about: Android, Apple, and Microsoft. Microsoft really isn't in this list at all. It's all Android or it's all Apple. So I can actually make special sites or special considerations for those systems depending on what they've got. It's interesting though that the iPad versus iPhone, I actually have this almost the same amount of visitors, but my iPad people spend more time, probably because of the bigger screen. All right, and again, it's photography, so I want it to be beautiful. All right. Now, social networks are also really kind of important in that what social network sent me the most traffic. In this case, hands down, in America, it's Facebook. But Flickr, Tumblr, and DeviantArt are also other social networks where my stuff has been shared, and they came in and they're looking at all the model photography that's on that, or some of the event photography that goes along. Predominantly models, predominantly the root directory, then some events, then they started searching, and then they found a model picture, and then people that found the model picture actually bounced back up to models. So you can follow these flow charts through and see how people interact with your website and what kind of content you have that's really interesting. If you want to break it down by a specific country or territory, I had 7 people come in from China who predominantly hit a single model and then went through and looked at another picture of the model or went up to people. So, but the Chinese people were specifically interested in what I was doing in the modeling side. And only one person was really interested in what I was doing at the root level of my website. And as you go through, you can actually track how people went through. Models are really important here. So people models. We had, as more people dropped in, we had more drop-offs. People said, okay, I started here, I don't want to click on another picture because that picture was what I wanted. Lots of events, lots of people, and so kind of makes it worth it. And what you want to do is when you get down to third interaction, what was the third or the fourth or the fifth click, how many people stuck with it and actually went through, right? And what were they looking for? Obviously models are the most popular thing I've got, so are events. These are the 2 big things that are the most popular on my website. So I should focus on models and I should focus on more event photography, right? And then so on and so forth. And you can track this all the way through until you actually get down to the last person who left the building. So repeat visitors, how many people kept on coming back? I like people who come back more than 4 or 5 times, right? These people are the people that are more likely going to buy something. And what's interesting though is that we kind of have that little hump in the curve between 9 and 201. So we kind of, people either lose interest after the 5th visit or they just keep on determining. They just keep on coming back with it. And then they keep on looking at the page views as we kind of go through, right? But if you've been there more than 201 times, you're only looking for the new content. You're only looking for stuff that just got uploaded or posted. But a lot of people come in for one visit and they take a look at one page view, and they take a look at a lot of page views. Again, 250,000 page views isn't all that bad. So the other thing I'm really curious about is where did my visitors come from? Right? So if they came from internal, if they came from SmugMug, Google, if they came directly, that tells me that they had bookmarked it somehow, or they typed the URL into the directory. Facebook, Flickr, mobile Facebook, right? A website that I run, and another website I run, Bing, and then Yahoo. So obviously internal referrals to the hosting company were the most important and had a really decent page view. What was interesting though is Bing didn't send as many people, but a lot more page views with some time and had a very low exit rate. The people that came in from Flickr didn't spend very much time on the website, didn't look at very many pages, percent new visits. So Flickr may be looking for something that I'm not catering to. Is there a way to raise Flickr so I get more people coming to my website? Right? And that's what these kind of data helps you question and understand. If we know where people came from, is there a way that I can get more people interested in what I'm doing? Is there a way that I could go ahead and cater to those people so I can get more page views, which will then give me a better chance of selling something, right? The referrals to search engines are important, so I know what they were searching on when they were actually looking for whatever it is they were looking for. You can see a lot of people actually search for me by name, which I think is interesting. But again, we have all these hits on models, we have the website name, but then all these that were not provided, so we don't know what they did. Emerald City Comic Con, which is one of our big events. Lots of pages per visit on that one. Lots of time spent on site, which is really good. Not so many new visitors, so that means people were used to me by now. And then this would be SmugMug models, not so many. But Emerald City Comic Con was obviously very, very good to me. Right? Now referrals versus social media. So if we have, these are my referrals from social media, Facebook, Flickr, Tumblr, all the rest of it. And these are all the visits that I had. We can see where we spiked here, and they just about matched up that this day was probably my best social media day at all. People were sharing right and left when it came to this whole process. And you can see the most popular social networks: Facebook, Flickr, Tumblr, DeviantArt, Google Plus in there, Pinterest, Reddit, surprisingly enough, FriendFeed, Twitter, and then WordPress. So really, I want to focus on my top 5, which is Google Plus, DeviantArt, Tumblr, Flickr, Facebook. And these are places I want to go. Obviously, I'm going to stick with Facebook because they generate a lot of page views. And again, page views are what sells pictures on the internet. All right, page views again. We want to break them down. We have the visitors flow, so we can see where they go. But then, which ones are my most famous, or my most popular, or my most infamous, depending on how you feel about it. So Crypticon, models, all the rest of it that kind of went through here in terms of how they generated page views, how many times they entered, what my percentage rate was, and then if I was tracking e-commerce, I would be able to do that here. So that's basically all there is to analytics. When you're going through and you're actually taking a look at analytics and you're into the dashboard, or you're into what's going on with your traffic and all the rest of it, so you can kind of see what this looks like in real life in terms of where stuff's coming along and how you want to look at it. So I have no campaigns, direct traffic, people that are coming to me, referral traffic, search traffic. Again, all those ways of looking at how well your website is performing is really the most important part of web analytics, because it allows you to identify what's popular, who's coming in, who you need to please, and allows you to focus more on those things that you want to focus on, and allows you a little bit more leeway if you're doing A/B testing, which is, does this work or does this work better for your audience and the people you want to work with. But that's basically all there is to web analytics. So if you've got any questions, feel free to give me a shout.